Hello and welcome to the second special election edition of Taiwan Talks, live from the Taiwan Plus studio in Taipei on New Year's Day. I'm Yin Kavat.
And I'm Albert Cho.
We're 2 weeks out from Taiwan's pivotal election. 2 days ago, we heard from the three presidential candidates. Today, we shift to the vice presidential candidates. They are Cynthia Wu of the Taiwan People's Party, Bi-khim of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, and Shaw-kang of the main opposition Kuomintang.
Which one of these candidates will make up the winning tickets to jointly lead Taiwan into the next 4 or possibly 8 years?
What role will the next vice president play in helping shape the future of the Taiwan Strait and the region? Joining us to discuss the diplomacy, economy and energy policies of the candidates are Raymond Song, Prospect Foundation Vice President,
and Chonglen Guo, United Daily News Deputy Editor-in-Chief. A very warm welcome to both on the show.
Thank you.
Raymond, let me come to you first. So we'd like to get your views on the performances of the candidates, each candidate, in 1 or 2 words.
I would say for Bi-khim Hsiao, it's comprehensive and pragmatic and stay woman-like. For Shaw-kang, it's more attack and more aggressive attack. And for Cynthia Wu, it's elegant and promising, but only on paper, only according to her words.
For Cynthia Wu, I would say green. That means she plays sometimes nervous, but refreshing. As for Xiao Mei-ching, I find her very policy-oriented, especially she's tried to emphasize and clarify a lot of misinformation. As for Shaw-kang, she have kept his style as a very aggressive campaigner. I mean, this had been so for 30 years ago when he's running for Taipei mayor. It had been very consistent.
So actually you align quite well in terms of your assessment of the candidates' performances. I mean, in terms of a vice presidential candidate, however, you know, maybe it's a mix of these two qualities that you identified in both Xiao and Zhao. Raymond?
I think today is only also illuminating in another aspect is they've been given opportunities to explain their policies or the party's policies more fully. I think that's maybe beside the personalities or policies, that's maybe one area we can concentrate on.
Tonglong, so would you say that Zhao was perhaps lacking in a little bit of policy?
Yes, I think from his opening statement, he is not making the policy statement, instead is right on to the attack of other candidates. I think that may be in a way to consolidate the original supporters of the Pan Blue, but in a way it will suffer from the middle voters from it. Right.
And just one final question for Raymond on this topic. Is Bi-khim, is she aggressive enough?
No, I think that's a deliberate policy, campaigning policy for both Bi-khim and William Lai. And they've been very reserving their attacks only on specific areas, but not a full-scale personal attacks.
Okay, actually the three candidates discussed strategies to expand Taiwan's diplomacy. Bi-khim Hsiao of the DPP, the former U.S. representative, emphasizing finding like-minded partners. Cynthia Wu proposed a 2-track diplomatic approach, that's very specific, whereas Shaw-kang suggested diplomatic truce talks with the mainland China. So which one do you think holds the most promise for Taiwan's future, Raymond?
There's a great contrast between the policy of DPP and the Kuomintang on the front of diplomacy, because for DPP, the China's role is not way forward, because China wants to suppress Taiwan sovereignty and want to deny or eliminate Taiwan sovereignty internationally. So they they emphasize the coalition with working together with like-minded partners, and also finding ways to make a diplomatic breakthrough, including to expand Taiwan's international space. But for Kuomintang, and especially Shaw-kang today, made it very clear that they view the relationship between Taiwan and China is higher than Taiwan's diplomacy. They think that's a prerequisite that Taiwan needs to get along with China well, so as to have more advances internationally, which is a contradiction in terms, because there's a formula for us who knows about international participation. There's a formula for participating into the international society on the Hong Kong model. For example, submission or acknowledging China's subordinating role over Taiwan in order to get into internationally, which Taiwan tried to avoid. So I think there's a very, very big contrast that I think the Child's policy or Kuomintang's policy based on old thinking that China will allow some room for Taiwan, which will given the decision-making power to China.
Zhao's argument that the cross-strait relations is even more important than internet relations. Do you agree?
Actually, I think Zhao Kang is quoting from Frederick Chen, who is the former foreign minister, who said that China policy should have a higher priority than international policy. But I want to emphasize is that Bi-khim had been emphasized that we should cooperate with the country, like-minded country, which we are all cherish democratic values, so on and so forth. While Zhao Shaw-kang is saying that we should not provoke China. That's a big contrast. I agree with Mei-Qing's talk when she's saying that we should not blame the victim. And I mean, this is a correct point. But in another sense, we should not also put all our chips on international support. Just look at the case of Ukraine. I mean, after 2 years now, Ukraine is going to be suffer from a lack of international support. So the realist approach should be having a two approach at the same time. You have to making a good relations with China while winning the international cooperations.
Okay, so leading into my next question quite neatly there, Xi Jinping, of course, reiterated again on his New Year's Eve speech that unification, or as they call it, reunification with between China and Taiwan is inevitable. And we know that he said that he would do this either peacefully or by force. Now, for you, Raymond, how did each candidate, how persuasive were they in essentially saying the other candidates increased risk, we heard that term used, or that they will best safeguard Taiwan's future peace and democracy?
That's another big contrast between Kuomintang and DPP in terms that the Kuomintang says that acknowledging, for example, observation of ROC constitution is a safeguard for preventing China having an excuse to attack Taiwan, which I must say is an old thinking. After Xi Jinping, what you just mentioned about Xi Jinping's 2019 speech on the Taiwan's policy of mainland China, no matter what that problem for them, Taiwan problem has to be solved. And it has to be solved quickly, cannot prolong forever. And even Xi Jinping with Biden's meeting in San Francisco just last month, and also she emphasized that. So the situation has greatly changed, and the old thinking of KMT saying by for example, putting emphasis on the password, for example, he used that 92 consensus or ROC constitutions by observing that, by opposing Taiwan independence, they can somehow given no excuse to China, which is a myth now. And that space called creativity or creative ambiguity has not gone under Xi Jinping. So I wonder whether KMT's old formula for Taiwan security could work any longer.
Zonglong, we heard that Zhao, in the speech, he reiterated some of the key themes that the DPP is provoking China through arms sales. It seems to actually go against some of Ho's policies.
I think Zhao had made a vivid metaphor, saying that if we can swim the Taiwan island to somewhere between China, American mainland and Hawaii, then you can say whatever you like. I mean, even claiming independence. But now we are just nearby China, so we have to be realistic. And he said, basically saying that we should still remain some link with China in order not to provoke them and then let them let us save time, let us find some time in order for Taiwan's own survival. I think basically his argument is buying time. And whether that is a plausible argument hinges upon the assumption you have with China. If you are saying that China is not going to attack anytime soon, that China has its own problem, then buying time is a sound argument. But if you are saying that China is going to take Taiwan, whatever it takes, then buying time is not going to help any longer. So there's a great difference on the assumption, right?
Okay, today's discussion also is focused on the national defense budgets and extending the military service. Bi-khim Hsiao actually attributes the Taiwan Strait risk to Chinese Communist Party. However, Cynthia Wu of the TPP advocates for the readiness in defense without the intention of initiating conflict, whereas Shaw-kang of the Kuomintang proposed boosting military pay. So how do you perceive their stances on the Taiwan Strait security and its potential influence on the election?
Thank you for the question about Taiwan security. I think in her response to answering questions, Bi-khim Hsiao gave a very succinct but very comprehensive blueprint for Taiwan security. They will concentrate on 3 areas. Firstly, about military training, which I think is good because we all know that it's not that Taiwanese younger people don't want to serve their country, to defend their country, but they detest the military problems within the regime. So modernizing military training is very, very important. And secondly, armed procurement, including self-made, homemade, and procurement, and including the tech transfer they got from America. And thirdly, it's about the strategy of deterrence, which means that working together with like-minded like Korea, Japan, and the United States to put up this, to hire the cost for mainland China to invade Taiwan. I think it's very succinct but very comprehensive. But Zhao is more selective. Zhao also mentioned that he wants to invest into military spending, including acquiring the capability of source attack, for example, counter-attack on mainland China facilities on China, which will cost a lot and might go of the red line of China. But he also said that we should seek dialogue to reduce the tension. So I think there's some internal conflict between Zhao's argument.
Their defense policies? What do you think
I
about
think
those?
there's a general consensus both from DPP and KMT. And in this defense policy, it's like KMT is moving toward the DPP stance. I still remember when Shaw-kang is still a talk show host when he's interviewing Hou You-yi, and Hou You-yi saying that maybe the military service can still cut back to 4 months. That exactly had created a big uproar in Washington. People from AIT and Washington had demand Hou You-yi to making an explanation, and then it turned around, and Ho is saying that we still support 1 year of conscription service. So you can see that there is a modification both from KMT as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Raymond, so let's move to the economy now. Given Xi's desire to take Taiwan peacefully, he says, economic coercion would fall within this category. How did each candidate try to assure voters that their trade policies with China would not increase China's ability to use economic coercion on Taiwan?
That brings me to mention specifically about Cynthia Wu, because she said very specifically about the Taiwan People's Party will do to resuscitate the ECFA and the service pact with China. And she argued that the blocking of that pact is the reason why Taiwan's economy is not going forward, which of course DPP and Shaw-kang gave a very, very active account to counter that. And but it's very surprising to me that they stick to that, because that will be hugely controversial, especially about service pact, because service pact is about the service market in Taiwan, which we have already the lack of force or lack of work employees, and it's already plagued by the low salary problem. I don't see how the more closely integrated policy toward that is helpful for Taiwan. And also, thank you for mentioning that, because one absent party here is China, especially China's economy. China's economy is no longer the promising land for Taiwan's economy. Is different, terribly different from 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So it's surprising for me that the blue and the white still stick to the old myth that China somehow provided some promises for Taiwan to develop.
So, Tolan, could you help to explain, how blue and white can persuade voters that ECFA is the right way?
I think this would go back to the global trend right now. So far, WTO did not go anywhere. So now the current trend is a bloc economy. Every country want to join a regional bloc. In Asia, already we are seeing CPTPP and RCEP. There's two trading blocs. And Taiwan had trouble joining either of them. And this is kind of frustration Taiwan is now having. We could count on the U.S. support in helping us, but U.S. is neither a member of CPTPP nor RCEP. So this is Taiwan's own difficulty. And if we want to eventually, now the first priority will be CPTPP since China is not a member, but eventually RCEP is an easy way if we can have a trade agreement with China. So I think that is what the blue and the white, blue and white is getting at. I mean, by using China as a way that we can join this kind of regional organization. But that would have some precondition on political terms.
Okay, Tolan, I actually have another different question for you, is that Shaw-kang from Kuomintang actually announced his plan to donate his entire vice presidential salary and repurpose the official residence of the social housing. So would you help us to understand this pledge, how does it influence the election?
Just like he is conditioned on his resigning from the Central Broadcasting Corporation chairman to the Lai Ching-de's William Lai's residence in Wanli, and then to try to show that he's the one who willing to give up all the privileges. But I don't think it's a reasonable way by giving up the vice president residence. I mean, it's not good for security reasons. After all, he's a backup head of state. I mean, what happened if he and Ho getting elected and he cannot get enough protection? That would be
another issue.
Right.
And Raymond, so constitutionally, what role does a vice president in Taiwan play when they assume office?
Right. I think Zhao today make a capricious and arbitrary allegation by saying that, because that's also highlight his tendency to seek attendance. I feel actually vice president is very important constitutionally, and it's not about our ROC constitution. It's about the working fundamental law of this country. Firstly, about security, because the vice president can access sensitive informations, and it has to have some security clearance to do that. And secondly, about performing the function or public function of the state, for example, representing the state, and to perform the task given by president, and also he has to prepare to serve the function of presidents when the president become incapable of doing that. So it's very important we elect a vice president to solve, for example, the housing problem, not to give up this residency for solving the problem.
But really quick, what actions of a vice president could be considered as crossing the line?
I think he gave up. He brushed away the role of vice president very lightly for a deeper reason, because the attack on KMT is that really Ho Yo-i had no idea about how to run the country. As we see that in last public presidential debate, when he come to policy, question of policy, constitution, or administration, he had a little idea about how this country is run. So the backup of him, for example, KMT chairman, the former president Mao Zedong, and Shaw-kang himself will be the elders behind the public policy. That's the question.
Quick response to this crossing line.
I think Cynthia Wu will play a very good vice president. She will behave herself. But in case of Shaw-kang, I think usually people are afraid that he may overstep his role, and then this is exactly already having the effect of scare away the central voters before the elections. But in the case of Xiao Meiqing, people are somehow expecting her to play a larger role, maybe a check and balance role on the power of the president, because when William Lai was choosing his running mate, I was told that Xiao Meiqing is the last person who will say yes, but it's also have the U.S. backing on this idea. So I think that is make Xiao Meiqing can play a more unique role in the future.
So given the dynamics that you both outlined there, what are the particular risks? Or I think we have covered the benefits for the DPP, but what are the particular risks for each party? Should for example, the KMT be voted in, or the DPP, in terms of the outsized role of the VP?
I think I must say that Zhao and both Zhao and He had very little idea about constitution. They stick to ROC constitution, but no idea to how this country is run and how a constitutional machinery is run. So that question goes to their allegations that parliamentary system would be better for Taiwan, but Taiwan has deliberately chosen the presidential system several decades ago. So that needs to be more comprehensively debated.
Song-hun.
I think now the Constitution is back in the central theme, as we have witnessed 2 days ago when William Lai somehow misspoken that the ROC Constitution would be a disaster. But somehow today we are seeing President Tsai Ing-wen is saying that it's not the ROC Constitution is a disaster, it's the linkage with the 92 consensus that would make China had unwanted attempt on Taiwan. That would be a disaster. I think still Constitution is the one that when president and vice president, when they get in office, they have to sworn in, and they have to hold their allegiance to. So this is the more fundamental thing. Although we are seeing in the final statement of Shaw-kang, he is saying that maybe the Constitution, the original form, is not workable. So we have the amendment later on. So there's somehow there's also some consensus here. I mean, the current format of the Constitution, the main text and the amendment as a whole, is the working principle that is going to govern the new government. I think that is the consensus right now.
Okay, actually the three candidates also mentioned a lot about the energy policy in Taiwan. Yes. But three of them disagree with each other, especially nuclear. Okay, so what should be Taiwan's next president's strategy for improving energy stability, especially for business, maybe?
Cynthia Wu pointed out that the energy and the green revolution is the path that Taiwan must pursue. I will give credit to her on that. But the problem is how to get it. And actually, the DPP has ruled for quite some time, and they have a very comprehensive plan to reduce the carbon emission and also to reach the goal of zero emission by 2050. And that's just the implementation encounters several problems. But I'm not satisfied with KMT's and TPP's proposal to resuscitate nuclear power without giving details about, for example, nuclear safety and nuclear waste management and the location that's feasible for building new, and also whether they will building a second generation nuclear plants.
We actually just learned there's a massive earthquake on Japan. So are there any potential risks of having a nuclear plant in Taiwan due to uncontrollable factors like that?
Right, I think that's the general concern. I think I agree with Raymond, especially when Bi-khim first raised that where are you going to build the new nuclear plant? I mean, now all the DPP government magistrate had against it. Are you going to build on the KMT government magistrate? There's going to be a tremendous political opposition against this. But on the other hand, we are also seeing that the presidential candidate of DPP, William Lai, is saying that maybe we should continue some of the nuclear facility after he gets sworn in office, because this is a more practical issues. I mean, there's no way we can ever go to 2050 with the zero emission without the nuclear weapon, nuclear energy. And I think that is the practical issues that every president should consider.
Okay, so very final, 30 seconds each. What did you consider to be the most persuasive arguments of this debate?
For me, it's Bi-khim Hsiao's policy on security, and that very succinctly summarizes how the DPP, if have the former years, that will be pursuing Taiwan policy, Taiwan security.
Okay, Tong.
I think I would still go with Shaw-kang's when he said that China policy should have a higher priority over foreign policies. But I will also give credit to Cynthia Wu when she said that you even don't know how to copy a policy in that sense.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our New Year's Day discussion about today's Taiwan vice presidential election debate. Now it's over to you to decide which candidate was the most convincing. Let us know in the comments below.
Before we go, a big thank you to our guests, Prospect Foundation Vice President Raymond and also Chong Lun. And thank you to our viewers. If you liked our show, please search us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and hit subscribe button. Take care and see you soon.